Hey guys, Rafael here coming at you with another deck profile. Had a lot of fun filling my Amazon's deck profile for Yu-Gi-Oh! And so I figured I'd do one for the other main card game I play, which is Weiss. For those of you who don't know, Weiss is an anime-based card game where you pit your favorite characters against your opponent's favorite characters. And if you can't tell by the playmat here, we're doing a profile for my Nico Yazawa waifu deck. This is a Japanese deck profile, but every card here is available in English bar one, and I will explain the one card that you can swap the Japanese PR to. So we're going to start off with any three vanilla Nikos. So we have here, this is the Japanese exclusive card here, which is the PR, made PR, cafe made hot stamp PR. Of course, you can just play the Nico Puri card as well if you're going for low rarity or you're playing in English. Nico doesn't have a lot of betas at level 0, so this card does really help. It's also good stock charge fodder. Next, we play 3 copies of the Loner Nico. This is a common, and this is the original one from the first set. So this card, if you have no other characters on stage, she gains 1/5/1 level. She is yellow, and most of the deck is green, but that's fine because we're at level 0 anyway. Also, there is another PR, there is another loner, which is a PR, which gets 1k power and 1 level if you have 2 or less stock. If you're playing Jap, that card is incredibly expensive, and this card does the job a lot better, because it is 500 power. Of course, you can have 2 of the PR on the field and get the effect. You can only have 1 of this, but I do believe that a 4k wall is a lot better than a 3/5 wall. Next up, we have 2 copies of Nico Makirin Someday PR. This if card is if it's in the middle of your front row, it gains an extra 1k. Very straightforward. Moving on to our utility grade zeros, we have 2 copies of the No Brain Girls Nico. So this card has 2 functions. First off, it is a brainstormer where we can pay 1 and mill 4 cards from our deck. For every climax we hit, she gains an additional 1000 power and 1 soul. Her other effect, of course, is if you have one or few other front row characters, so if you have 2 or less other characters in your front row, she gains an extra soul. So really, really handy early on if you want to push for damage. Next up, we have, moving on to our assist grade zeros, we have this. This is our Miracle Nico Yazawa at 2. Now this card is amazing. I love this card. I don't see a lot of Nico decks actually playing this. I don't know why you wouldn't, as its first effect is it is a global Nico support. So all your characters with Nico in their name, so basically every card in our deck bar 1, gains an additional 500 power. So it is a global support. Her other effect is the main reason why I play her, is that she has the effect of if you pay 2 stock, rest her, so basically tab her, you can give one of your other music characters 2000 power. And the other effect, if that character reverses, you can add any music character from your waiting room back to your hand. So it is costly paying 2 stock and resting the character, so you can't do a lot of your other rest effects, but it does give you an extra 2000 power, and it is Nico's only way to access the waiting room. The other 2, of course, we do play 2 copies of Angelic Angel Nico Yazawa. So I do personally prefer this is our Miracle Grade 0 over the Angelic Angel Nico Yazawa, because it is a global support, where Angelic Angel is only a support in front. However, if you do play a green climax, Angelic Angel Nico Yazawa lets you pump another music character, another 1/5. So you can do that. There are situations where you'd want to play this particular Grade 0 over the other. Next up, we play 1 copy of the Nico Yazawa Deck Searcher from the trial deck. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with its actual full proper name, but on play, pay 2, search your deck for a music character. It does have Nico in the name, so it doesn't really brick the deck too much. However, it is a very, very costly deck search, so we only play that one, and we don't really want to see it. The other card that we play is this, which is our Stock Bomb PR from the same trial deck as this Nico here. Obviously, if you're playing Jap, this won't be in foil if in the same trial deck as this. But also, this is a triple R, meaning that you do need to pull it from your trial deck, which is quite hard to do, as there are 9 triple Rs. If you can't get your hands on this particular card, you can just play 2 copies of your Deck Searcher. Not really the end of the world. Moving on to our grade 1s. Now we have the most important grade 1 in our deck, which is the Sweets Fairy Nico Yazawa. So Nico Yazawa Sweets Fairy gains an additional 1000 power if you have 2 or more other characters on your field with Nico in their name. Not very hard to do in this deck, obviously. Her other effect, which is the important effect, is you can rest to any 2 of your music characters and give one of your music characters the effect. If it reverses an opponent's character, you can put the top card of your deck blind into your stock. Very, very important, as we need to build stock as quickly as we can in this deck. Next up, we have the To a Foreign Land Nico Yazawa. Very, very important PR in the deck. Probably the strongest main beta you have at level 1. She does start at 4/5. However, her effect is if you have 5 or more stock, which isn't very hard to pull off in this deck, she's going to get 2000 power. And if you're going to have a full proper back row support with global 1k, she's going to be sitting at 7/5 at level 1. Really, really strong. The only downside, of course, you have at level 1 is if you're going up against bombs, or particularly clock bombs. Clock bombs will render your deck kind of dead at level 1. but regular bombs you can just pay 3 encore, as you will be building a lot of stock. Next up, we play 3 copies of Nico's Brainstormer, which is the Summer Date Festival. So it is a global 500 to all music and a generic pay 1, rest 2, mill 4 brainstorm. For every climax you hit, you get to search your deck for a music character. Most of the time, though, you'll be using your back row to rest if you use the effect of your Sweets Fairy, and just so you can get as much stock as possible. Of course, it is a global 500, so if you put 2 in the back, it is 1k, and because they have Nico in their name, your Sweets Fairy is going to get an extra 2k. So she's going to be a 6/5 base, making her relatively difficult to get over for most cards released around the same era. Next up, we have 1 copy of Nico Proud of Lyrics. And this is a card that a lot of people didn't actually know existed. This is a anti-change. Love Life's one and only anti-change. So where anti-change works, if you aren't familiar with it, is if your opponent's character is higher than their level, you can play this card, pay 2 stock, and send that character to waiting room. Now, this is a level 1 anti-change, so you can play at level 1. Most anti-changes must be played at level 2. The trade-off is that your opponent gets to pick a level 0 character from their waiting room to put in the place of the early player that you kill. But considering we're able to play this at level 1, I think that's a fair trade. Next up, we play 2 copies of the Minnie Mouse Nico counter. Again, not familiar with its proper English name, but it is a really, really strong counter in the deck. It does have a soul trigger as well, so you're going to get an extra soul if you trigger it, obviously, and it is a 2k counter. It is a 1/1, but potentially you can play this card for free, because its second effect is if all characters on your stage have Nico in their name, you can put the top card of your deck blind into stock. So this card is basically a free counter, however, it also lets you thin your deck by 1 card. So really, really strong if you're getting towards the late stages of the game and you know you want to try and cancel and thin your deck. You're not going to mill the card, you're going to put it into your stock. So you're still going to have a stock. Really, really strong card. Finally, for level 1, we play 4 copies of one of the best events in the game, Super Idol Nico-chan. This card can only be played from our hand if we have a character with Nico in its name on our stage. Not very hard for us to pull off, considering every card in the deck minus the stock bomb is Nico. And what it lets us do is search our deck for any card with Nico in its name. So this card is broken on 2 reasons. First off, it is a free deck search for any character we want from our deck. Really good, so basically it replaces itself. Secondly, of course, it allows us to look at our deck for free. Now, considering we're going to be making a lot of stock in this deck, and a lot of it is blind stock, it involves you to remember where your climaxes are most of the time. And the good thing about this card is we get to see exactly what's left in our deck, so we can kind of statistically work out when we're going to trigger a climax and when we're going to blind stock a climax. Very, 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 very strong card. We must play this at 4. Amazingly broken card. In about 400 or 500 games I've played with this card has only bricked me once. So this card is basically never going to brick you. Moving on to level 2. We played 2 level 2 assists. Now, the only reason I play this generic level assist here is mostly because it's a foil. I would definitely rather play 2 of this card, however, sometimes the extra 500 power is relevant. So let's start off with this one. For starters, it is a global support 1k to all music, whereas this one is just a level support. So this is only really going to make your level 3s and level 2s big, but these are the only level 2s we play, where this is going to make everything bigger by 1k. The other benefit to playing this card is when you play it, you can pick 1 climax from your opponent's waiting room, and swap it with the top of your opponent's stock. So you can basically, if you play it at the right time, force your opponent to refresh with 1 less climax, which is always really helpful. Of course, she also has a soul trigger because she's a level 2. Next up, we have this one, of course, generic level assist. She does have a climax combo, which we don't play, but basically it's climax combo with a 2k1, pay 1, choose one of your other characters, and they get plus 2k. Not really relevant because we don't play it. We choose to play it the stock soul over it. Next up, we have onto level 3s. We have 2 copies of Happy Maker Nico. Happy Maker Nico gains 500 extra power for every character on your field other than herself that has Nico in its name. Again, not very hard to pull off in this deck. Her other effect is if she's front attacked by an opponent, you can check the top card of your deck and either leave it at top or put it in the waiting room. Really, really strong. And if you have your generic back row of level 1 or level 0 back row, she's going to be a 13k base. Really, really hard to get over. And finally, for our final level 3, we play 4 copies of the final song, Nico Yazawa. That's not her actual name, but I am not familiar with her proper name, unfortunately. This card is the heart and soul of the level 3 game. This is the card you want to play at level 3. For starters, she heals on play. And when she attacks climax combo with the gold bar, you may pay 1 stock. If you do, she gains plus 2,000 power, so she's going to be at 13k without back row. And she's going to get the effect, if she reverses the opponent's character, she gets to send that character the clock. Really, really strong. Kind of hard to get over for older decks. Newer decks, probably find an easy way to get over that. Of course, if you can't pull 3 of them, you can also combo out with this, resting this and one of your other back row to give one of these Nikos, if they reverse blind stock charge, so that when you attack with the second one, you'll instantly pay out that blind stock anyway. So really cool combo you can do there just to get as much stock as quickly as possible. Finally, moving on to our climaxes. We play 4 copies of any green stock soul. Nico doesn't actually have a stock soul with just her on it. She only has access to 2 K1s and gold bars, and please do not play 8 gold bar in Nico. Playing 4 gold bar is already very dangerous in this deck, considering how much you compress. The stock soul is very important in this deck, as it allows us to, if we're using our Sweets Fairy combo, make 5 stock in 1 turn, which is really important. It also gives all our characters +1 soul when we play it, and it helps us compress. And if we can't attack, we can always just play a stock soul and we'll still get at least 1 stock. And finally, we play 4 gold bar that combo with our level 3 Nico. Gold bar trigger, if we attack and we reveal this card, it comes to our hand and we put the top card of our deck face down into our stock blind. So we don't know what it is, but we have lots of ways to pay that out, like our counter. The only downside, of course, I've had with this deck quite frequently, or not frequently, more often than I'd like to, is I'd have a bunch of gold bars in my hand due to how much I've compressed. So this deck, if played correctly, can compress pretty quickly and pretty strongly. Of course, anything like a stock swap will basically kill your deck, that is becoming a lot more frequent nowadays. But against like older decks that don't have access to stock swap, this deck is pretty good. Against newer decks, of course, if you play it right and they don't have the stock swap, it's also really strong. The biggest weakness of the deck, of course, like I said before, is bombs, and if they are actually bigger than you, or you can't reverse them. So if you cannot reverse their characters, you won't be able to do most of your effects. And if they're bigger than you, you obviously can't reverse them anyway, and you're going to lose your characters. Nico doesn't have access to hand, none of this deck has hand encore, so the only option you have for encoring is pay through the encore, but in most cases, the deck is actually a lot of fun to play, and beating people with Nico is always really satisfying. So anyway, guys, that's my profile. Hope you enjoyed it. Please, if you want to, please check out the rest of my channel for my other awesome comic, anime figure, and TCG deck profiles, and I'll catch you next time for my next profile or review.